Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Pay the Bills post-game show presented by Picasso's Pizza. Get your Picasso's Pizza in Western New York and anywhere nationwide at picassospizza.net. And we're here again, 4:30 in the afternoon, another Sunday, just like last week. And the Bills make a crazy comeback and this time defeat the New England Patriots on the road, 35-31, down 24-7 at the half. Everything looked bleak. The timeline was bleak. Our group chat was bleak. We were ready to blow it up. Mike Bundt might still be ready to blow it up.
Slick was crashing out over at Sports City Pizza. Yeah, I think through a TV outside or something. I hope it was like a old one, but I don't know what was going on.
It looked like a smaller one. Maybe, they paid for it, whatever. Slick got his anger out. He's going to have to sacrifice. I saw someone in the comments that he has to sacrifice a TV every game now. Like that's just it's gonna have to
play. So this is a ritual when we're down in the first half, as we do.
And let's start there, Parthy. Let's start there, because what the hell is wrong with this team that they have to be a helter-skelter bipolar team and look like a team in the first half who doesn't belong on the field with any of the good teams in the NFL, and then in the second half look like a team that nobody can touch. It is absurd.
I coined them the bipolar Bills in our chat. I'm sure I've called them that before, used that term. And I mean no disrespect to anybody actually going through bipolar disorder, but it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with this team. It's a tale of two cities, or a tale of two halves in this case. It's like whatever game plan they have for the second half, let's just start that in the first half. Can we, Joe Brady? Can we, Sean McDermott? I mean, maybe, the guys in cover one can get into, the nitty gritty of what's being done in the first half versus what's being done in the second half, play calling wise, execution wise. But I haven't heard any answers from anybody at this point. It's just the weirdest thing. Bundt, do you have any ideas?
I have no idea why they get off to such slow starts. I know you script the first drives of the game, but I don't know. There's no reasonable explanation. I know people are going to say, well, they go into half and then they make their adjustments and they figure things out. I've talked to numerous coaches in the industry. You don't really make a million adjustments in halftime. You're constantly making adjustments throughout the course of a game. So maybe sometimes they figure things out a little bit earlier.
I remember Peyton Manning once saying that.
Sometimes maybe it takes a little bit longer for them to figure it out. But honestly, crazy. And you know what? I just tweeted out from the Pay the Bills account that the Bills just pulled off one of the craziest comebacks in team history. But let's be real. How many of those games have we had this year alone? You got the 15-point comeback against Baltimore. You have last week. Now this. We might as well start calling them the Cardiac Bills, because each week is something crazy. And if they could ever solve how to get off to a little bit better start in these games, I probably would have 5 more years on my life, and I think we'd all be a little bit more comfortable with this team.
Hey, for those who are old enough to remember, sometimes the certain game against the Broncos in 1990 gets brought up. 3 touchdowns in 77 seconds to erase a 21-9 lead there. And then the very next week, actually, they had a 24-14 deficit against the Raiders and came back in the fourth quarter. As I recall, they went on a bye week, and then they had a comeback game against the Jets with the last second touchdown win. This is I haven't seen this many comeback games or consecutive comeback games this crazy since then.
Insane, Jake. And Jake, we got to get this started. We got to talk about this comeback. So I'll let you get us going. But Jake, what were your thoughts watching that game?
I think we have frozen Jake here.
Oh no. So Partham, I'll start with you. I'll throw the questions your way, and then we'll kind of rebound from there. What were your reactions to the comeback first and foremost?
I'm saying that.
What were your thoughts watching this game live?
My first thought was, okay, the Patriots are for real. They're not the paper tigers that everybody was trying to convince us that they were. And obviously the division's lost. We're going to have to go on the road. And seeing as how this team doesn't seem to do well on the road, if the prospects for a Super Bowl were looking pretty bleak there. And Drake May is going to go on his way to win his first MVP in his second year. And Diggs is going to dance on our graves, and Portnoy is just going to, yell in our ears out. The vision is theirs again, and look how that all turned out. it's hard to dissect this game without just going into superlatives. I mean, one guy I'll shout out is Matt Milano. Where did he come from? Like two passes defense, 2 tackles for lost. Great game from Matt Milano. Looked like the Matt Milano of old.
And Jake, I don't know what Milano was great. The 2 sacks in timely moments too. Jake, we froze you for a little bit, so I don't know if you knew that or not, but you were out of it. What were your thoughts watching this game, man?
My thoughts, like I said, you guys, I've been in the group chat all year long trying to be the optimistic person during this game, like saying there's a lot of time left. I gave up. I was done. I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. Another game on the road where they're falling apart. Drake May looking like Josh Allen in the first half, scrambles, the 2 rushing touchdowns, getting away from pressure, the dimes he was dropping at times. It was
long pause. It was
Jake's
what
internet today. Jake's internet.
Tune in later to find out what Jake thought it was.
But let's just keep the show going. Obviously, some spotty internet. But I'm gonna give let's talk about the standouts today. First, we got to talk about Josh Allen and James Cook. Josh Allen, I know people say it's unrealistic for him to be Superman every week and carry this team, but he was absolutely unbelievable today. 3 touchdown passes, the reemergence of Dawson Knox really stepping up, and James Cook, 3 total touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 in the receiving game. What were your impressions watching Josh? I know this is what we come to expect from him, but when did you start believing the Bills could actually come back in this game? And did you actually think it was a possibility until maybe fourth quarter?
I protected my heart until they were within 3. They scored their 3rd touchdown. I'm looking at the receiving for the first half, just overall receiving, not even just the wide receivers, 6 total catches for 35 yards. And let me get the stats here. Josh Allen ends up throwing for 193 yards on 19 of 28, 3 touchdowns. I mean, they're pulling rabbits out of the hat. It looks like it does take effort to find guys downfield. There's still, some place where he has to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. I think he took a sack or 2. And when we see, the end zone shots, it's like, oh, he's got no one to find. But somehow he's throwing it into tight windows again, at least a couple of times, especially on a touchdown pass to, I think, Knox it was, where he's just saying, screw it, I'm just going to thread a needle here. And he does. And now we're just sitting here dumbfounded like he did it again.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. The receivers definitely leave a lot of room for improvement, and they've been struggling the entire year. The one thing I do want to give some credit in the passing game, though, is I really believe the tight ends have really stepped up. Dawson Knox was great today. 2 touchdowns. You see Jackson Hawes get a critical catch in a situation in the second half. Dalton Kincaid, he's probably not anywhere close to 100%, but he's still making an impact and still getting timely receptions and yardage. He had a big 24-yarder in this game.
It was nice to see Knox contributing in a game that isn't featuring the 32nd ranked team against tight ends, as it was last week.
And that's an interesting thing. Dawson Knox has been a really interesting player to me in recent weeks because he's a guy that, let's be real, most of the fan base has, for the most part, given up on him. He's the guy that when we look at the tight end room, we're like, well, he's not the receiving threat that Dalton Kincaid is. He's not.
I wouldn't say they've given up on him. They just don't think he's worth what he's being paid for the production that he usually gets.
I agree. I do. I think it's somewhere in the middle. Giving up is maybe a little bit too much, but sure. I do believe a lot of people, they don't realize that a guy like that, he entered today 25 receptions for 316 yards. You had a couple touchdowns today. He's not having that bad of a season for what he does as primarily a blocking tight end, and then receiving is secondary for him. He's going to end up with around 30 plus receptions for probably close to 400 yards. And now he's getting a couple touchdowns. For what his role is, I think he's pretty good for this offense. And when the real, I think, different, I think the tight ends are making a difference is my main point.
Yeah.
Is we know the receivers aren't getting the job done. So how are you going to get done in the passing game? And the answer in recent weeks has been we need to involve all of these tight ends. The run game, we can talk about how it's been special all season, but that New England front is one of the better run defenses in the league. And the Bills were pounding it once again. Now, they didn't have explosives like they typically have, but you got to give a ton of credit to the Bills' offensive line today, and especially James Cook, 3 total touchdowns.
Certainly didn't have explosives like New England did.
Game with 100 yards from scrimmage plus this season. James Cook is now in that superstar tier with the Jonathan Taylors and the Saquon Barkleys, and he might, depending on how things go, end the season as the leading rusher in the NFL.
When's the last time you'd probably have to go back to OJ, because even Thurman wasn't able to accomplish that in his best years. I think he came up like 6 yards short to Barry Sanders in 1990.
Yeah, I unless somebody did it that wasn't one of the like marquee guys, but I don't know if Thurman ever did it. Honestly, I was so young at that time that I doubt it. I know
he led the league in all yards from scrimmage for 4 years in a row, a great accomplishment in itself, but never led the league in pure rushing.
But that's a great point. And I mean, we could go on and on and on about Josh, but everybody already knows what Josh brings to the table. So we're really not bringing anything new to the conversation there. Let's talk about the defense, Parthy. First half, horrendous. Second half, outside of the one long touchdown run, very good. What were your impressions of the defense, and how do you evaluate a defense that has one of the worst halves of football you'll ever see, but then they respond by shutting down one of the best offenses in the NFL for 30 minutes?
I would just try to look in the first half and see what was going on. Were there more missed tackles? Were there guys out of place, guys over pursuing, guys not holding contain? Because I saw a lot of that from some of the usual guys. Some people were saying, Shaq, they were looking at, was not having a very good game. He didn't end up contributing too much. 3 total tackles, 2 solo for Shaq in this game. And like I said earlier, Milano stepped up in a big way, exactly the opposite of what we expect from both of those guys this season so far. We saw Poirier almost make a crucial interception in the second half.
He should have had that one.
It was kind of off the side of his hand, but I think maybe he was expecting it to deflect because it was going through the receiver's hands. It basically went right to him. There's a lot to get into as far as dissecting, the crucial plays defensively in the first half, and then all the stops they were able to make in the second half. Milano had a big sack on third down for that first possession that the Patriots had. Let's see. Trey White almost had the interception. Trey White did have the interception on the arm punt, so that was the second drive. Henderson goes for 65 on one play. Milano gets a big sack for -7. They have an incomplete, and then they have a false start, which pushes New England back a little farther, and they have to punt. And then Bosa just comes out of nowhere. We didn't hear it from him all game, and he knocks down the pass on 4th and 5. So it's just a bunch of different guys contributing out of nowhere, seemingly.
You know what I learned in this game, and it's not even just Bills related. We knew that the Bills were resilient. They've had these comebacks and crazy performances this season when things look bleak. What I learned today was more of a Patriots thing than a Bills thing. It was that when
you think that they're good enough to, have compiled all these wins, but they haven't faced adversity from a team that can counterpunch.
Yes, so that's the first thing. They haven't played an offense that's actually capable of coming back in a game like this. And then number 2, I think Drake May is very, very talented. His running ability it's actually very solid. He just doesn't use it a lot. But when push came to shove in this game, the Patriots didn't get it done in the air. They were trying to rely on the ground, which means that even though I did say earlier that I think Drake May is a superstar and he's great and he's obviously in the MVP race, I think if you're going to be in that top tier, you trust your quarterback in those situations. And I didn't get that sense that the Patriots had that belief. And it's crazy because in the first half, he was balling 9 of 10 at one point for like 108 yards. He was making plays. But when it got tight late, I noticed he looked a little bit tense. Some of these throws started being nowhere near guys. There was some inaccuracy, maybe some poor decisions. I know Hunter Henry killed him on the drop that went right through his hands. But if that's the way the Patriots are going to be in moments of adversity, they're going to struggle to get to a Super Bowl because you're going to have adverse moments in the playoffs. And it was kind of a reminder that while the Patriots might be every bit as good as the Bills, they still need to overcome that lack of experience that the Bills have in the playoffs. And who knows, like this could be a learning moment for them. But it was a lesson that the Patriots might be there, but they might not be all the way there yet.
Yeah, on the second drive of the second half for the Patriots, May missed Mac Hollins a little bit high. And there was like I think a throw before the Bosa knockdown on like third down for that last one where it was basically to nowhere. I don't know if it was miscommunication. So, yeah, you could see if they were relying more on the run, then I actually don't begrudge them for that. They got a 65-yard touchdown out of it. And the way that the Bills defense the run defense was getting gashed, and knowing coming in how weak that aspect of the defense is, with a lead, you would think that the smart money would be to ground and pound the ball and sort of run out the clock. But they just let the Patriots defense let the Bills back in the game a little too quickly.
And you know, one other thing, I can't believe the Patriots defense had that stretch against the Bills that they did. The Bills, what did they do? They scored touchdowns on 5 consecutive drives, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So that was incredible by the Bills. Patriots defense definitely showed some vulnerabilities, but you know what? The Bills, when they went to, and yes, they had balance. They had good balance either way, both ways. But it shows the Bills they still have that ability. They can turn it on at any moment, and it doesn't have to all be deep passing. And it is kind of strange that a team like the Patriots that had a 21-point lead, that has a good defense, that had a very good running attack, that wasn't able to put that type of game away, and not just put it away. The Bills not only took the lead, they took the lead with plenty of time left in the fourth quarter. This wasn't something like it went down to the final minute. Like, yes, the defense then gave up the lead a minute later, but I don't know. I think this is a valuable lesson for all the teams in the AFC, that if you're the Bills, you really shouldn't be scared of anybody. That team was a half away from clinching a division, and they gave it up. And the other part that I found very interesting was how the Patriots handled their 2-minute drive before the end of the half. Now, they ended up getting a field goal out of it, Mike, but they were content with the clock ticking. And if they didn't convert on third down, they were going to punt the ball up 14. And yes, the Bills would have had barely any time, and it probably would have been a 21-7 score. And they end up getting the conversion. They get a field goal. It's 24-7 at the half. But I thought that showed some tentative.
Well, I should point out they did take a shot in the end zone, which Trey White knocked down.
Yep,
they were trying to find Mac in the end zone. Yeah.
So they did take one shot, but that was like a bomb. Well, they had opportunities where if they would have managed the clock better, the way they were moving the ball, they could have given themselves a shot at a touchdown. And I think a 21-point lead going into the half could have been.
Speaking of managing the clock, who forgot to start the clock running at 6 seconds? Like
that happened multiple times.
The running play, he got down, and all of a sudden they started running the clock.
Yeah, that happened multiple times. I don't know if that was the graphic with the clock for CBS or if that was at the stadium, but there was clearly something wrong on their signal there. But
some weird things going on with officiating today. I mean, a lot of replay judges in the sky booth or whatever overturning calls, except for the one call on that first drive that could have benefited the Bills with a seemingly incomplete pass for the Patriots that McDermott didn't bother challenging, and no one in the booth bothered to take a second look at.
Did you think that was complete or not?
No, he was bobbling. It was bobbling in his hands, and it hit the ground. It certainly caused the football to move. By definition of the crazy rules of the NFL, that would not have been a catch.
I think you're right. After watching it a couple more times. So this is my interpretation of the replay assist versus challenging. And I think a lot of people got this wrong on Twitter during the game live. Replay assist is when they can clearly confirm within a period of seconds or
with one look at it without having to take 3 or 4 looks at it.
That it was clearly the wrong call on the field and that they know with 100% confidence they got it right. I think the play that happened to the Bills, against the Bills, was one where you can't just overturn that based on watching like 2 replays. Like you need extended period of time for that. So in my opinion, based on the way the rules are, I think that's one that Sean McDermott would have needed to challenge. Now the Brandon Cooks one, which was a horrible drop, hit him right in the hands. Perfect throw, wide open. That was super disappointing. Now, at first I was like, that should have been a challengeable play. That shouldn't have been replay assist. But then they show the replay and the 1 foot never hits. So maybe they had enough confidence at that point in time. But it was pretty interesting. Jake, I'm gonna just host for a little bit since we're already a little bit into the show. I think you actually have a clear signal now. So give us your thoughts on whatever you want to talk about, and then we can kind of let you dictate the conversation before we get into like playoff thoughts and Kansas City being eliminated and other things like that.
As I was trying to get back in, you were making one of the points that I wanted to jump into this game, and it's going to be a full hater point, but I've been calling on it for weeks and weeks and weeks about this Patriots team. And it's the fact that I watched a lot of Drake May in college. I watched him play in a lot of big games in college. I watched him not come through in a lot of big games in college when they needed him most. It's not like he was lighting it up at North Carolina, making clutch plays left and right. And like you said about this second half, but that offense, like Patriots fans, I have plenty of Patriots fans in my life that were texting me after this game, all upset after they were boasting all week and in the first half. They were not blaming Drake May in the offense. They were said, "Oh, the defense fell apart. Oh, Josh did it again." You know what would have helped your defense? Yeah, if Drake May could have helped sustain a drive. There's really one play. It's one Travion Henderson run that is just, if you watch that play back, Maxwell Harrison and a little bit of Epineza overrunning their assignment and not keeping their backside responsibility, and Henderson just gets loose. And Travion Henderson, first of all, like,
that was an awful defensive play, by the way. They had him pinned up, and they just needed those two guys to contain, and that's a loss of yards. So I was pissed watching that play. So I'm glad you did point that out.
It was brutal to see that. But Henderson, you got to give credit. I don't know what he did in the first half of the year that Vrabel didn't want to put him on the field, but he is an electric player and going to be scary for the rest of the year. But beyond that, they couldn't sustain drives, and it's what you were saying. It was Drake May with some happy feet. The Bills had better rush lanes. They started using a spy in the second half a lot, where they a couple times they would, simulate a rush with a guy and then send the guy back to spy on May. So he wasn't able to get out and scramble like he wanted to, but he was missing throws. Like he was missing open receivers. He wasn't leading them like he was. Like the first pass to Butte at the beginning, and you guys were just talking about that in a second, whether that was a catch or not, and the replay assist and everything. It was a beautiful throw by him. He wasn't doing that in the second half. He wasn't giving those guys the same chances. Whatever the Bills did to adjust to him really bothered him. But that's the whole point of this whole Patriots run this season so far, is that they've beaten up on a lot of bad teams. They've been a front runner in most of these games and been able to play a certain way. And that when they were pressed today and felt the pressure from the Buffalo Bills, they didn't respond. Like the offensively or defensively did not respond out of one play. And that's what you have to come back. Like, I don't know what we take from this game about the Bills. This is just who they are, right? Like we're just going to be confounded by them week by week, but next, terrified to think about what it looks like next week against the Browns. If it looks ugly in the first half, we're going to be saying in our group chat, but then they'll probably come back and score 30 points in the second half. But what we do know about the Bills is that they are clearly able to call on their experience. They're clearly able, all the wars they've been through the last couple of years, that they go into that halftime or at some point in the game and are just like, no, just stay in the fight, keep going. We know we can make plays against these teams, and then they do it. And that's not something you can teach. It's not something you can coach. It's something you earn through being a great team year after year. And that's why you have to be bullish about them going into the playoffs, because they're really the only team left standing in the AFC that can call on that kind of experience and bring back to it. And today was an example of one of those wins. Now, do I want to be having these games every week, guys? And especially when we get to a play, like if wild card weekend, they're down 21-7 at halftime, am I going to be feeling good? Probably not, but this just might be who they are. And if they're going to make a run, if the Bills are going to make a run to the Super Bowl, this feels like the kind of chaotic team that we'd have to get, put fans through, the experience that we'd have to put fans through. But I don't know what to take about it from this team. but I think that they can call on so much from the years past that you have to listen to Josh. You got to take them and trust them going late into these games. What were you going to say, Parthy?
Do we know of a game this year where they were down by double digits, erased the lead, and didn't end up winning? Because they could, when they come back, and sometimes they have, they play down to their opponent a couple of games earlier this year, which a lot of people were pointing out that the Patriots haven't. Give them credit for, putting away the teams that they're supposed to put away for these last 10 games. Occasionally, the Bills once or twice this season, and maybe once or twice the last few seasons, sometimes have those, for lack of a better way to say it, wet fart games. But have we seen the Bills come back and not been able to finish?
Most of the time they do finish. It's just that they normally wait so late that the rebound, the Henderson rebound, I think that's what you're referring. Like, have they allowed something after coming back and then still found a way to win? I don't know if that is happening.
I mean, erase a lead, take a lead, and then blow the game after that.
Yeah, that's not something that you see too often with the Bills. A lot of the times in these games, they're either down double digits late, and then they come back and the other team doesn't have a chance, or they found a way to pull away. They did have the game against New England on Sunday night that they were down 10 in the fourth quarter. They come back to tie it, but then New England gets the field goal to win it. So I don't know if there's been a situation where they've been down double digits, they've come back, given up the lead, and then found a way to win it. But it's an interesting situation with everything right now. And I do want to bring up this question by David. And I think it's the time of the show that we need to talk about this. Mm-hmm. Do we need to win out to win the division? I have to go through the actual game by games. I don't think that they technically need to. I believe if the Bills go, they finish 12-5 and the Patriots lose to the Ravens and the Dolphins, I believe there's a scenario the Bills can get in that scenario if they're both tied at 12-5. But because
there's going to have to be a tiebreaker in there somewhere with the Patriots loss.
It would come down to common opponents. And I know right now the Patriots lost to the Steelers, and in this situation, they would have lost to the Ravens. Both games that the Bills will have won. Both teams would be 4-2 in the division. So I think the difference I think the Bills would have the better common opponents record. So I do believe if the Bills go 2-1 down the stretch and they finish 12-5, as long as the Patriots lost to the Jets or Miami, one of those two games, and combined it with a loss to the Ravens, I believe the Bills get in that scenario. And that's why this is crazy, because if we're being real, we're going to have a very interesting discussion next week on this Tuesday on who do we want to win the Ravens-Patriots game. Because if Pittsburgh loses this week to Miami, you're going to have the Ravens and Steelers tied in their division. And we'll be looking at a situation where if you're the Bills and you end up as a 5 seed and the Ravens beat the Patriots, you might be playing the Ravens in that 4-5 game. But if you have a situation where Pittsburgh wins against Miami, they still keep their game lead in the AFC North. The Patriots lose against the Ravens. You're probably talking about the division coming down to week 18. Bills playing the Jets, Patriots playing Miami. And you know what's crazy? That Dolphins team, I thought McDaniel should have gotten fired. They're fighting for him. If they might be playing for something. Extremely slim probability of that, but it's insane when you think about it. And if the Bills somehow pull off a miracle and get the AFC East crown, that'll be bad news for the rest of the AFC.
Compare that to a couple of years ago when they pulled off the 3-week miracle, ending the season and beating the Dolphins on a tiebreaker for the AFC.
This might be a bigger miracle to win the division, less of not a miracle to make the playoffs, but to win the division. Probably a bigger miracle, just because the Patriots have been so hot. It would take losing 3 out of 4 games after starting 11-2. While Miami was fighting just to get to 10, 11 wins. So It's close, but this might be a little bit bigger of a shocker if somehow the events play out this way. And can you imagine? Can you imagine if the Bills, like Denver still has some tough games to play. Now that Kansas City's out, Denver might have the advantage now at the 1 seed. But if you're the Bills and you somehow pulled off a miracle and you got that 2 seed, Denver would probably be playing Houston or the Chargers in the second round. So you would have a chance. I mean, I'm messing up I'm messing up what I'm saying right there. Obviously,
we'll figure out the math as all the games work out.
Wild card games first. I was messing up, but the fact of it being, it's kind of crazy to think like the Bills might have the highest odds of going to the Super Bowl if they can somehow do that.
If the Packers win today, we can even start getting crazy about the Broncos, who have. I mean, that Chiefs game, depending on the Mahomes injury, takes a whole different look, especially with them out of the playoffs and depending on what he looks like. But they still have the Chargers left. Like, I don't think they're out of any of this. I think that this is what it comes back to. And then Parthy, jump in after this. Like, what it comes back to for me is that these two teams, we see it every year in the NFL. Teams start hot, really hot, and then fall apart a little bit down the stretch going into the playoffs. And these are two teams who have never been in this position. Like, December football brings a lot of pressure. That's why you got to feel like if you're the Patriots, all the pressure is on them going into next week. And it's a Sunday night game. And then if they lose that one, you got division teams that, want to be playing spoiler and want to be, ruining their season. It's completely flipped now where the Bills are playing with house money and all the pressure is on New England to finish this job. Go ahead, Parthy.
So let's hypothesize that the Bills don't end up with the division, however it works out. So they can be anywhere from 5th seed to 7th seed. Would you, if there's weeks left to go and you know you can't win the division, but you clinch the playoffs, do you rest your starters on the last week? Because maybe you're confident against the entire field of the AFC and it doesn't really matter which way you seed?
This is going to sound crazy, but I think it depends on your thought process of playing Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. I like
they might scoreboard watch, honestly, see where New England's at in the game.
Yeah. And you're tied right now with the Chargers. And I think the Chargers are technically the 5 and the Bills are the 6.
Yeah.
So you're in a scenario now where I don't know if it makes and this is tough.
Is Baltimore the same team they were in week 1?
Yeah, I don't want to look past the Jaguars either because Jacksonville might be the hottest team like offensively in the NFL right now. Yeah. Like they are on fire. But I think if you're the Bills, what's the big difference between Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Denver, and New England? Like they're all similar caliber teams in my opinion. I don't think you can look at any of one of those teams and say they're a class above the other. Pittsburgh is probably the easiest opponent. So if you know that Pittsburgh is the 4 seed, I think you're fighting to make sure you get the 5 seed because that creates a scenario where if you beat Pittsburgh and somehow say Houston is the 6 or the 7 seed and Houston pulls off an upset, you could then be playing a team like Jacksonville in the next round. Or if crazy things happen, maybe you're hosting an AFC championship if Houston wins 2 games in a row. Which, like, if we're being real, like, what are do we think Houston is way far behind the Patriots or the Broncos? No. Probably not. They might be even better than those teams right now. They got off to a slow start, and now they're playing great football. So the point of it kind of is that this AFC is wide open. And today is kind of a reminder of it. When push comes to shove, it's going to come down to who do you execute in the big moments. And this should put fear in Patriots fans that they literally should have been walking to a division championship today and they coughed it up. Like, think about the next time if they're in that moment. They're up 14 points. It's third quarter. They're not going to feel like they have it. They might feel that little bit of anxiety. And the other part, too, is they always say, and I know the Bills won this, so the season series is split. What's more likely? The Patriots figure out the Bills' offense or the Bills' offense with more games in time figuring out the Patriots' defense? I think that's scary for the Patriots because the Bills defense is going to be leaky regardless of who they play. But the Bills offense, if they're going off, it doesn't matter who they're playing. They're going to go off. And I don't know. It's very interesting to me because Parthy, we talked about this all the time. We always said, a lot of people have said, well, you can't count on the Bills defense in the playoffs. So why not create an offense that can just outscore everybody? And it's so ironic that they're doing this with maybe the worst group of receivers in the NFL. But I think they did create an offense that just outscores everybody. They did it to Baltimore.
They just take their sweet time doing it.
Yeah, this is like the third time they've done it this season. Like they did it to Baltimore. They did it to Cincinnati. Now you're doing it to New England. It's not what I think they intended, but somehow their balanced attack of running and now getting a little bit more play action and getting the tight ends involved has created I don't want to say unstoppable offense because for 30 minutes today they did nothing. But when they get it going, they might be the best offense in the NFL.
You think, because I mentioned this in the text group, when they scored the 65-yard touchdown on one play, and then the Patriots defense had to go right back out there, I think it was a 7-play drive after that for another touchdown. They were getting touchdowns, one drive after another as it was at that point. But I think that might have hurt the Patriots defense a little bit. A 3-and-out is bad enough for a defense to go back on the field. A 1-and-out, even though you score and take the lead, but then you're marching back right out there against a team that you already gave up 3 or 4 touchdowns to.
I'll say this and I'll toss it to Jake. I think what we have realized, or we're starting to realize with this team, is that when you have an effective run game that is getting you in second and third and manageables, it's almost impossible to stop a team like the Bills on offense when they are clicking properly. So in the past, what would it be? The Bills would pass the ball a lot, and they would run all right, but their running was more because they were spreading teams out, and teams were trying to take out the pass, so they were daring the Bills to run. They were letting the Bills run. We're in a situation now where the Bills normally run for 5 yards a carry, and it's not anything crazy. It's just them doing their normal thing. And when you're going up against a defense like the Patriots, where they're stout against the run, but you're still running effectively against them, you're putting them in poor situations. The Patriots are used to putting people in second and long, third and long, and then quarterbacks make mistakes or they can't convert. But when the Bills are running the ball effectively, which when they're not when they're not running it effectively, it can throw things into a wrench for them. But I keep hearing people all the time say, what are the Bills going to do when they're not running the ball well? I can count on my hand like how many times they haven't run the ball effectively this season. It's been 1 or 2. It's been like 2 or 3 times max. And what you do in that situation, you ask your MVP quarterback to be Superman. And that's why when everybody's like, well, can you depend on Josh Allen to be Superman every single week? And I'll say this, I don't think you need to, because if you only need to depend on him to be Superman when the run game ain't working.
Yeah. I want to briefly point out, we were talking about seedings and who might you not want to face. Houston's only one back of Jacksonville. If they get the division title and seeding works out well, we could be going right back to Houston, which is one of those few count on one hand games.
Very unlikely to be Houston based on the way it's currently shaping up. Jacksonville has a game remaining against the Tennessee Titans, and they play the Colts in a couple of weeks. Now, maybe Phillip Rivers can pull off a crazy what?
Find the fountain of youth.
It's only 3-3 right now, second quarter.
So
he's not dead yet.
This is the crazy part, and you brought up Denver earlier. And this is going to be fascinating down the stretch to see what Denver does today against Green Bay, because next week Denver plays Jacksonville.
Yep. And
I'll do the whole if Jacksonville beats Indy and Tennessee, they have a 68% chance of winning the division, even if they lose to Denver. If they beat Denver and lose to Indy, it's still the 67%. So if they go 2-1 down the stretch, they're likely going to win the AFC South. If they go 1-2, it's probably going to be Houston. So I guess I shouldn't say it's over. It's definitely not over, but Jacksonville's probably getting to 12 wins. Now the question is Houston gonna get to that point? This is just an insane conference right now. Like,
Hey,
I tried to say this stuff early in the year, Jake. Like, I was bringing up like the whole, what if Kansas City doesn't do this? What if Denver does that? Like, and
I was gonna say, you mentioned the AFC West. I'm gonna give you the Dennis Green quote. What would he say in this situation?
I don't know. Oh, they are what we thought they were.
They are who we thought they were.
But
because you've been saying that all season, and I wanted to give you that satisfaction.
I appreciate it. This is weird. When I project things and I'm not giving myself credit for like saying all this stuff, but like when I look at the schedules and the way things are playing out, I'm like, this could happen, but this is more likely, blah, 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 stuff like that. There was a lot of things that were like shaping up early in the season where I was like, could it really play out this way? And even in my wildest dreams, I never would have imagined no Kansas City, no Cincy, possibly no Baltimore. Like if you would have told me that, I would have said like Bills are going to the Super Bowl and like lock it in. But then like simultaneously, like the Bills have an up and down year. The Patriots win 10 games in a row. Like this has been maybe the most wide open AFC I've ever seen. Like since I've been an adult watching football. Like you think about it, you had 2 decades of the Patriots running the conference with the Colts and the Steelers. And then you've had this period where it's been Bills, Ravens, Chiefs. And then out of nowhere, you got a handful of teams. Like if you would have said before the year, like Jacksonville, like maybe winning a division, the Colts being in that division race. And like, I know like people would say, well, Denver's good and maybe the Patriots could surprise people. But like, I think I still feel the same way today. Like the Bills could go to the Super Bowl, or they could lose by 20 points in the first round. Like I wouldn't be shocked to see either thing happen.
People would have said if the Chiefs are missing the Super Bowl, and at some point during the season, probably early on, Patrick Mahomes must have gone down with a season-ending injury. How ironic that he has a possible serious injury on the final drive of their final game of eligibility for the playoffs. Well, it took until then for that to happen, and they were eliminated anyway.
What if it's serious? Like, what if it's I mean,
well, it's a moot point at this point. Their season's over, one way or another.
What if next year? I mean, you never know with injuries. But Jake, I've talked too much. Your turn to just go off, man.
I told you, I love listening to you guys talk. I love just sitting here and just being a part of this. But I want to bring up the point. This is something Bill Simmons does all the time when we're talking about the Bills. And you said up and down, and it's felt up and down for us because we're so used to a certain level of play for this team and consistency from this team. But now they're 10-4, which is, I mean, they're on pace to likely win. You would think 12 games at the very least, which would mean they would, if they get to 12, if it's 12-5, then they break the streak of 13-11, which maybe that's all they needed to do was get an even number of wins and then get a Super Bowl, and then we'll go on our happy way. But Bill Simmons loves to do the, for sure wins, for sure losses, either or games when looking at a team and deciding whether they're real or not. The Bills' 4 losses, 2 of those are absolutely either or games. Like the New England loss to start, and the Houston game, both either or games. So when you talk about it, there's really 2 real losses. And I guess there's probably some either or wins in there too that I should go back through. But like the Ravens game, obviously this game and the Bengals game last week. But that's a pretty good, litmus test for whether a team is real or not. And I think if you look at the AFC as a whole, Patriots been in a lot of either or games this year. Denver been in a lot of either or games this year. And that's what you can fall back on, where it hasn't looked pretty the way we're used to with the Bills, but they're still finding ways to put their foot on the pedal. And I like what you said earlier about the run game specifically, right? Because that's the element that even last year, they can lean on it more this year, where they can close these games out. When they got the ball back with under 2 minutes left in those 3 timeouts, they could just run the ball out. And they ran 3 plays and got 12 yards, and then the game's over. In years past, I don't think we would have felt as confident about them being able to close a game out by dominating on the ground in that way. And you also were talking about, does Allen need to be Superman the whole year? or this whole run to get it done. Well, they clearly, whether we liked it or not, told him and made a cognizant decision that to start this year, Josh, we don't want you scrambling as much, and we're not going to run you ourselves. And when they've needed it now in late November and December, they've started implementing the design runs again. You've started to see him be less hesitant and more free scrambling around and trying to make plays with his feet. And that's when you have that going with James Cook just getting 5 yards, like you said, 5 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry at will. That's what's going to win you games in the playoffs. Like that's what's going to be able to get you to salt these games away. And then the variance, like it's just the fact that, and it's the fact Josh Allen is just a top 5 offense on his own. Like that's basically what we've seen the last 5 years. Whatever you want to do, whatever the scheme is, whoever the players are, if you have that guy playing and he's healthy, you're going to be a top 5 offense. But this year, it's felt so different to us because it's just looked differently with the lack of explosive downfield passing game. But this setup right now might just be more conducive to winning when it matters later in the season, because they can be so adaptable offensively. And I don't think that they've had that in years past, where it was, oh, Allen's arm is what's going to carry us. Allen's Superman is going to carry it. Now they can really tap into anything depending on the matchup. And they tapped into different things just today. And in the last couple of weeks, bringing the play action game along, where we were begging them to, implement that play action passing game earlier in the season. And now it's one of their biggest weapons. And it's unlocked Dawson Knox to a certain extent. And the tight ends are taking over even more than they were earlier in the year. Like it's such a different approach offensively, but I feel like it's the most malleable approach. And that's what they've always wanted when they talk about complementary football. That's what they've been aiming for offensively. And that's what you have to feel good about, because you can lean on the run game. And then if you don't have that run game, you can lean on Allen to be Superman. But a lot of it in the last couple of years has been reliant on Allen either being Superman or Diggs being Superman or whatever else it may be. They have a lot more options. It's just not as pretty as it used to look.
You know what was also interesting? I hope my mind isn't like screwing with me right now, but I believe on the James Cook touchdown, that was the first one of the day for Buffalo, correct?
Yep.
Did they have an orbit motion going to the right side, and then they had James Cook going to the left side? And I found that interesting, and I know they've done that before, but I love that because the orbit motion has been so successful for them in the past, because normally you get the one guy in motion, and then you kind of backdoor it, and normally you're unaccounted for. But when you have James Cook there, I love the orbit because you're having them think this is what we're trying to do. And if it's just a half a second, that's all James Cook needed. Literally, the guy covering him was there a second later, but James Cook was able to just skip into the end zone. And I look at it, and I'll tell you both of you guys this. I think people know that James Cook is good. I still don't think James Cook gets his fair due for how good he is. If you watch the Bills' offensive line, like they do at times, sometimes they make giant holes for him. But he's shown some patience at times in gliding ability that reminds me of Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. There was one run today where they were showing it back, and where Spencer Brown had already gotten the block on the second level before James Cook even really approached the line of scrimmage. Like he let the play develop in front. And I think we're watching. This isn't an overstatement. I think this is just an obvious point I'm about to say right now. We're watching one of the best running backs in the history of the Buffalo Bills right now.
And that's saying something. They tend to have good running backs even during the drought years. That was one of the very few strengths that they always had. Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, and granted, some of the backs, they might have had some more of their success on other teams, but I don't think it's crazy to say that James Cook. I'm not gonna say he's Thurman, because Thurman's a Hall of Famer, but there's things that James Cook does that are right up there with Thurman, right up there with. Look, I mean, LaShawn McCoy is probably one of those like on the edge of Hall of Fame discussion. Like, is he in? Is he out? Probably misses, but like not far off from making it. If James Cook continues playing like this in Buffalo for years to come, like he might end up being a guy that rushes for 8,000, 9,000 yards. And we have talks about him being one of the best running backs of a generation. Like, and that's premature. That's very premature when I say that. But he entered today on pace for over 1,700 yards rushing this year. He's a guy that's on pace for over 2,000 yards from scrimmage. And last year, he was coming off a 16 touchdown season. He's on pace for another 15 plus touchdown season. I think we're getting to the point where the national narrative has to stop being it's just Josh Allen. Because if you were watching the Cleveland Browns and you had Nick Chubb at running back, you would say that guy is nasty. And right now, what James Cook is doing, he's producing regardless of who the quarterback is.
James Cook has been with the team since 2022. He's already 6th all-time rushing leader for the Bills. Looks like he's about maybe 500 yards away from Joe Cribbs.
That's insane.
Yeah, and he just signed was a 3-year, 4-year extension. So I'm telling you, James Cook is one of those guys. Every time you think about it, what was he not supposed to do coming out of college? He wasn't supposed to be good in between the tackles. He was supposed to be a guy with a little bit poor vision, poor contact balance. He was more, this guy is a good receiving back and he's explosive. And what is he now? Like, yes, like he makes plays in the passing game, but he's one of the best runners between the tackles in the NFL right now. And
when he seeks contact now, like you see him lower his shoulder into a guy willingly, often.
And the thing I love about Cook right now is a lot of people say, like, you don't need bell cows anymore in football at running back. And I was one of those guys. And I agree. Like, it's good to have complementary guys. But with Cook, you can use him any variety. You can do a toss play to the outside and let him use his speed to get to the edge. And it's almost like when you have a guy that's as explosive as he is, it's just give him enough time to where he can try to find a hole and attack it. And if he attacks the hole, he is one broken tackle away from a 20-yard gain at any given time.
You saw that second tackle of his. He basically just knifed right through the guy's arms right there.
He's unreal. And yeah, the one he slammed his hands down because he saw the hole outside to take it. And
the one where are you talking about the one where he stretched for the touchdown? They had to.
That was an amazing challenge. That was an amazing play too, where he was able to get it all the way over. But just in general, like, incredible talent. And I hope the narrative going forward, everybody always says now, like, the Bills have no weapons. I so adamantly disagree with it. The Bills have 3 weapons on their team. One is their quarterback. Number 2 is their running back. And number 3 is Dalton Kincaid, who just needs to be healthier.
Right.
Yeah. And the last couple weeks, Dawson Knox. I mean, the Dawson Knox resurgence. You know what? Also, I don't know, Bills beat reporters, I'm putting you on blast because where was the talk about Dawson Knox being a new father this week? Would have hammered that touchdown prop right away. They had no idea there. So shout out to Josh Allen and on his dad, and also shout out to Dawson Knox on his
How about a connection of a new father from a father to be?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's double dad power.
Dad straight all over the place on the Bills offense today. There was unstoppable connection.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been joking about it. Like, I don't actually believe what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Obviously, people joke about the NFL being scripted and all that stuff. And we know it's not, or we at least think with a high probability it's not. But when Taylor Swift started dating Travis Kelce, it was kind of like suspicious how like it felt like they were on a downswing. And then they go to back-to-back Super Bowls and they win one. And you're like, no way. And then all the conspiracy theorists were like, really? Taylor Swift dates Kelce, then they win one, and then they go to another one. And I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not saying that Haley Steinfeld is Taylor Swift in terms of like international popularity, but Haley Steinfeld is pretty popular. And she's coming off a movie that I think she was nominated for an Oscar for like Best Supporting Actress or something like that. And she's now pregnant. So if you're liking storylines, if you want a nice script, MVP, soon to be father, married to a Hollywood celebrity in a small town in Buffalo that's never won a Super Bowl in their current stadium, trying to get one before they move into their new palace.
Well, we didn't
like,
really get
all-
too much
all
help
these
from the
years-
officials today in that regard.
All these years of being the favorite, and then now they're like being doubted because they've had an up and down season. But we cleared the field of all their top competition to like clear a path for them to where it should be easier. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if I'm a script writer, it feels
the whole
like
idea behind
the Super Bowl.
The Taylor Swift conspiracy is, oh, she's so popular, she can bring brand new football fans into the fold as, Chiefs fans, that these little girls that listen to Taylor Swift that never watched a football game, now they're Chiefs fans. And because when they were good and Travis was making plays, they would show her on the screen up in the, the private suite, reacting and saying, good for her, man.
It'd be great. Super Bowl. There's a trailer for a new Marvel movie, and you see Haley Steinfeld in it.
I had that thought. She hasn't been.
Then I'd
she hasn't been confirmed as being in the Avengers or whichever movie. I would hope that she is.
Oh my God! Like if you see, she hasn't been announced for the movie or anything. But like if they come out with, they're supposed to come out with the trailer. 3 of them, I think, this month. If you see Haley Steinfeld in any of those Avengers trailers, it's already foretold. Because like here's the thing: Taylor Swift brought young girls to watch football, but she was from the music industry. Now we're talking about the movie industry. So.
And the movie industry loves a good script.
Yeah, this is next level by the NFL because, like, you know what? And I hate even saying this, but like we've always joked around, like, well, like we do anything just to win one Super Bowl. Well, Josh said he's learned there's more things than just football. What if this is the NFL's way of saying, Josh, we're going to give you your Super Bowl. We're going to let you be great and you can play a couple more years, but then you can retire into the sunset, keep your great looks, become a Hollywood actor, and then they're a Hollywood power couple, but we get our dynasty for like 3 years first. If you told me the Bills could win 2 Super Bowls in the next 3-4 years, but Josh Allen retires at 34, 35, I'd be like, okay,
I'll take it.
I'm fine. And then I'll cheer him on in Hollywood, and I'll buy all of his movies, and I'll support it.
He's had enough acting reps this year. We've seen the commercials. He's been working, bro. The agents got him out there doing his thing.
Was he
I don't hate that idea.
A touchdown Bills thing?
I don't think so. I haven't watched. I'm saving that for Christmas Eve, Parthy. Come on, I'm saving that's the big one. A couple of fun stats here as we're winding down. I got this for you guys. Ready for this?
Yep.
Record when allowing 185 plus rushing yards this season. The rest of the NFL, 4-26. The Buffalo Bills, 4-2.
Amazing.
Like, that's absurd.
I mean, it's not absurd having watched this entire season and watched half the teams run for 1 million yards against the Bills. But you know what that does show, though? It shows if you're going to consistently run the ball against the Bills, you better put them away. And the 2 teams that did, to their credit, Miami and Atlanta. As far as blowouts, like Houston left some space. Like Houston could have blown that game. The Bills' offense just was a little credit to their defense. The Texans' defense came to play. But if you're going to run against the Bills, you better make sure you're up by 3 scores in the fourth quarter. And like you're killing the clock and you're getting first downs, because this is another aspect of it. And I would love to know what the first half versus second half splits for the Bills defense stopping the run in most of these games are. Because I know Travion Henderson went off for the 1 today. So it's going to show that they ran for a decent amount still in the second half. But I feel like that might be part of the adjustments we see, where maybe the Bills get a little bit better against the run in the second half of these games. Because teams sometimes, like when we're like thinking in our head, okay, Bills are playing awful today. They're down 21-0, or they're playing Baltimore and they can't stop anything. The common theme is, okay, the Bills are down double digits. They can't stop Derrick Henry. They can't stop Travion Henderson. They can't stop this. But then when the comebacks begin, what normally happens? The Bills get a stop or two. And I don't know if the averages would verify this or not, but I would almost venture that these stops are started by a first down stop where you allow a run of 1 yard and you're setting them up into a second and long or third and long. If the Bills defense can set up second and longs, third and longs, I feel like they have the opportunity to make plays and get stops. But if they get beat on the ground every time on first down, that's when it just feels like they have no chance.
I'm looking at I don't have the total breakdown, but I can tell you that the second half points per game allowed by the Bills defense in 2025 is 9.2. That's seventh best in the league.
So that does confirm whatever they're doing at halftime is leading to different results in the second half. Now, we obviously know that it's better because we see their second half point differential. But it to me, it was so interesting how the Patriots have one of the best point differentials in the first half of games, and the Bills have the best differential in the second half of games. And to me, that speaks volumes that the Patriots, they're doing a lot of what the Bills used to do. They jump on teams, they put them out, and then they can coast to victory. While the Bills, these slow starts, they're having to try to find something, and then once they figure you out, they're very, very hard to stop. And I'll have a bowling analogy. I can't believe I'm going to bring bowling into the show. Do either of you guys bowl? Probably not. But when I bowl, there's nights where I just have it from the beginning, where like I know I'm going to dominate. And then there's nights where I'm struggling and I don't know what the line is. I don't know where to throw it. I don't know the speed to put on it. And I might struggle for a game or a game and a half. But once I find that line, nothing can stop me from that point to the rest of the night. I'm invincible at that point, for the most part. But that's kind of like the Bills. Once they figured out the Patriots today, what did the Patriots have to counter? They didn't have anything. And that's and to overly simplify everything, I do sometimes wonder if the Bills play games of cat and mouse with opponents early where they are like, we're going to keep it generic. We're going to let you throw what you have out, and then we're going to figure out what you're doing, and then that's when we're going to counter you. Now, I can't say that's what
isn't that the idea with the first 15 scripted plays that they throw a base defense and they just see if they can stop them, but maybe they don't, and then they can adjust.
Now, my counter to that is you don't want to be trailing 21-0. So they definitely were not intentionally just giving up big plays, but in an overly simplified manner, I do think the Bills play a little bit of a waiting game in which once they know what you're doing and they have a high degree of confidence that they know what you're scheming, they are going to then put on the press. And I think in the past, the Bills didn't need to win games that way. The Bills just knew that they were just better than everybody else and they could just hammer you and put you out of your misery by halftime. This Bills team, I think they know defensively they're not strong enough to just push everything out in the beginning. So it's more of a slower, conservative approach. But we've seen it countless times. Once they click, this team still has the ability to score at lightning speed. Yep. In 35 points on the road with 28 of those after halftime, that's insane.
Five straight drives, like just imposing, like you're saying, imposing your will. Like that's what it is. I think there's something to that, Mike, especially because, like you said, they know that they're not as strong defensively as they've been in years past. So you have to kind of have to cat and mouse it a little bit and game it a little bit to see what teams are going to throw at you and then adjust rather than putting out your best. Because if the Bills put out their best foot on defense and it doesn't work, they're not going to have a lot of pivots defensively to try to do things to change things up in the middle of the game. And also, yes, 21-0, you don't want to be down, but if Brandon Cooks just makes that catch on the first drive, the Bills are probably rolling on that drive at 7-7, and it's probably feeling like a different, even if the Bills are still down at halftime. It was a lot of missed opportunities by that team in the first half. We were talking about it in the chat as well. So
and we got to acknowledge Brandon Cooks got open a few times downfield in the game.
And Allen was looking to him.
It's usually a target on the first drive. It seems to be a pattern where whether he catches it or not, that's the only time we ever really see him. Maybe I think there might have been a target later in the game, but
There was one a
it
little
seems
later
like they
where
could only get him involved on the first drive.
Allen missed him high earlier, or later
Yeah.
on.
The one deep shot, two things came into play there. One, Allen didn't have the ability to plant right away, and then he had to roll a little bit. And by the time he got it off, that gave defenders a chance to like catch up to the ball. But when they showed the replay, if Allen didn't have to roll and he had a little bit better pocket, nobody was within like 10 yards in any direction of Cook. Like he was as wide open could be. So, and Jake, you could probably confirm this too. With a guy like Cooks, who a little bit older, not quite the same player he was, new to a team, he obviously doesn't have the entire Bills playbook down right now. I would venture that each week in practice, they're having him focus on a handful of specific plays. And they used that first play on the first drive because they saw something in the Patriots defense that they thought they could exploit. And they did exploit it. And he just dropped the ball.
And he just dropped it. Agreed. And I think that they're using him. They probably, honestly, not even just play similar routes that they're running him on. That like, there's probably things that he's running that he knows he's not even going to touch the ball. And then plays where he's expecting the ball and the number one option on there. I'm sure that it is. But this looked like the most involved he had been in the passing game. And he had a lot of snaps, especially because I don't know if you guys noticed. I think Palmer was kind of sat a little bit in the first half after that false start. He wasn't on the field as much, and then they brought him back in to the second half and got him in the fold. There was a lot of Cooks today. There was a lot of Palmer today, and it was interesting to not have Gabe Davis play in this game. But I think it was because they wanted to see what it looked like when you had Palmer and Cooks and Shakir all out there together. I mean, we could talk about Coleman, whatever. Coleman.
How about the catch by? It was Shakir who had the contested catch, by the way, on the fourth down. Correct. Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. I'll give you my thoughts. I'll throw it to you, Partham, and then you, Jake. First off, Ty does go to the receiver. So my interpretation when I saw it live, and I didn't see a slow-mo, was it was dual possession to the ground, and then the Patriots player took it away when he was on the ground. Now, the argument from Patriots fans was that he probably had possession before the ground, whatever. But that's obviously not what the refs called. And then you had pass interference. Why that call, the pass interference, was huge right there, and why Vrabel wanted the flag picked up, was if they would have picked up the pass interference, he would have challenged it to say we had possession and like that it was an interception. But because they called pass interference, the Bills were going to get the first down either way, so it didn't make a difference. But had they picked up that flag, it's really, really interesting how that would have played out. Like I said, I didn't see a slow-mo of it, but that was a gutsy throw and an incredible catch by Shakir in a moment that if they didn't convert, might have shifted this game the other direction.
I think there were at least one other late drive by the Bills where they got saved on a third down by a penalty by the Patriots.
And Jake, what were your thoughts when you saw that?
Yeah, the Coleman, the tug on Coleman's jersey later on was the other pass interference.
That's why we have Patriots fans in the comments saying, "Hope you all enjoyed the 21 points that Russ gave you today." And biggest, well, that's not spelled correctly. Not shocking from a Patriots fan, but what I would say is this: just joking around. I respect people from New England. What I would say is this.
Except Portnoy.
I'm not saying this ain't necessarily right, but when you have the superstar quarterback, sometimes you get a few calls your way. And Patriots fans should not be calling out any
should
other.
Should be very familiar with that.
From benefiting these when they've had 2 decades of calls going their way. Boo-hoo. Sorry, Patriots fans. Another team got a couple calls in a game that they won. Go cry behind your 6 Super Bowls. Like,
as a now retired wrestler would say, their time is up. And our time is now.
Exactly.
Now they could still win the division this season, and maybe they could say their time is back, but whatever.
On that catch specifically, I think Jones wrestles it away after they're already at the ground, and they're never going to give you the interception after that. They went to the ground tied up, and they're going to give that to the receiver almost every time. I think watching it back a couple of times, it looked like Shakir and Jones had it tied as they went to the ground. Jones wrestled it away after they're on the ground. But the play's dead. The second they both land on the ground tied after all that contact, that's a Shakir catch, and it just is what it is. Maybe it's a dumb rule. Maybe you should just let them wrestle like rugby and go after the ball until the play's over. I don't know.
Then it gets crazy. And
yeah, no,
guys,
I remember the Bills did get screwed on one of those before. I forget what year it was, but the Bills had a dual catch moment. I don't know if it was against the Patriots or who it was against. I think it might have been against the Patriots, where somebody ripped it out after they were already on the ground, and they gave it as an interception.
Yeah.
By the way,
gentlemen, we have breaking news here. Phillip Rivers has thrown a touchdown pass. His team is up 13-3. The Colts over the Seahawks.
You know,
this is
I would
interesting.
have wanted the Colts to win had Kansas City won, because like you want Kansas City eliminated. But now that Kansas City is eliminated, like I really don't know if I'd probably rather have Houston as the 7th seed. I want Houston to eliminate somebody. I don't know if I like the Colts opportunity.
Yeah, but if you got a chance to play Phillip Rivers in the playoffs again this year, like I'd be all over.
Okay, I'll say this: if the Bills are the 2 seed, if somehow the Bills get to the 2 seed, bring on the Colts, and this is a dream scenario for me.
Well, wait a minute. Wasn't that Phillip Rivers' last game, that playoff loss to the Bills in 2020? Was it?
Yes.
Now that's beautiful.
This could be part of the script again. Oh my God, guys, it's been foretold. I'm telling you, there's a book somewhere that's already told someone how this all plays out.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts before we head out of here and go watch the rest of this football on our Sunday? The Broncos just scored. They're about to take the lead on the Packers. That's what I'm going to be most interested in here the second half. But Parthy, Bundt, what else you got here? And then we'll be back on Tuesday to get the rest of the crew in here and break this all down.
I tracked down the first half, second half splits as far as the Bills scoring defense. 13.4 points allowed per game in the first half. That's 24th ranked. And as I said earlier, they allowed 9.2 in the second half. That's ranked 7th. So there's a clear distinction there.
It's pretty nuts.
I'll give my final thoughts. Don't check my Twitter account from earlier today.
Were you being facetious or were you being serious?
I was being serious. I think I still feel that way too. I just not the time to talk about that right now. We can talk about that on Tuesday. But yeah, crazy.
Well, there were a lot of people, a couple from Cover One, even Aaron Quinn had pretty much had it up to here. He was saying fire everybody.
I just don't think like the style of football the Bills are playing right now and how they're built is going to improve as time goes by. So I do think they need to make some changes regardless of how this season ends. And I said that on Tuesday, and I stand by that right now. Even if they win a Super Bowl, they still might need some change, because it's not about what the results are now. It's about what you want the results to be going forward. And I think some things are getting stale. But at the same point, my final thoughts are this. Like, this team is one of the most fun / frustrating Bills teams I've ever seen during like this era of quality winning football. And I am all for this roller coaster. I have zero idea what they're going to do on a week-by-week basis. Watch them go to Cleveland and somehow lose to Shedeur Sanders. And I'm joking, I think. But it's one of those things where it's frustrating because we know how good they can be when they bring it, but we don't know when that's ever going to happen. And what I'd say is this. And Jake made a good point earlier, while we're all frustrated and we're talking about a roller coaster, this is a 10-4 team. Like, 10-4 is a really good season for 85% of the teams in the NFL. And back when we were in the drought, we would die to have double-digit wins and be in this situation. And with having the Browns and the Jets remaining, also the Eagles, you have a very good chance of going 12-5 and possibly in this AFC East race until the final week of the regular season. So I do think it's important, while it can be frustrating, to acknowledge that we are still having a very successful season overall. And with the way the AFC is shaking up, all of the goals for this team are still in front of them. So regardless of if they win the AFC East or not, this team is going to have a chance to make a run and possibly win a Super Bowl. And once the playoffs do come, even if Lamar does make it, you are likely going to have the best quarterback in the NFL remaining on your team. And honestly, you could say that in any scenario. You have the best quarterback in the NFL. So when you have a guy like Josh Allen, you should have that confidence that we always have a chance. And we have the ability to make a play to get back into a contest. We have the ability to put a team to sleep. And I know the defense is frustrating. I know the defense is bad, but Patrick Mahomes early in his career did not have great defenses. But every time we played the Chiefs, I was still scared shitless of them because I didn't think early on that we could go toe-to-toe with that guy. And that today and last week should be a reminder to all of the teams that potentially make the playoffs that, yeah, we have a weak defense. But you know what Josh Allen just did? He put 39 against Joe Burrow, and he won the game when it mattered. And I don't care what the Bengals did today. And then this week, went up against Drake May, who's probably going to finish second in MVP voting. And he put 35. He was down 21, and the Bills were like, no, what? We're going to come back. There's no reason for the Bills to be scared of Drake May, Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence. But I almost said Ben Roethlisberger.
The only reason really they've had to be scared the last 5 years is Steve Spagnuolo, and he's not going to be there. And Mahomes is not going to be there.
These are my thoughts. This team has been to the playoffs. They know how to step up. They just haven't gone past Kansas City or Cincinnati. Those teams are not going to be part of the equation. So all I'm asking the Bills is be prepared, throw out your best, and see what you can do, and let's hope that it works out. And we have as much of a chance as anybody else in the conference. And I'll even say this. Our defense has been pretty shitty. If they improve just the slightest amount, good luck to teams with the way we're clicking right now. So I don't want to get overconfident, but I see a scenario where they can get hot and make something happen.
Absolutely.
All right.
Ed Oliver could be that little bit of difference in that defense. I'm just saying. You got the jersey on right there, Bundt. You got that 91 on your chest. He's doing push-ups.
He could join.
Unfortunately, I got some bad news for you.
I know.
What?
My wife bought me this jersey and she picked a random number, so it's actually a Bundt jersey.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm embarrassed to say that, but
let's put Mike Bundt in the. Let's put you in the D line. Let's get you in the middle of that defense.
Hey, wouldn't it be part of the overall poetic narrative if Ed Oliver pulls a Terrell Owens and makes it back in time for the Super Bowl? That'd be nice.
Well, we said this on the show, Parthy. There's thought that he could be back for like the beginning of the playoffs. Like not like that.
Even better.
Like that's not a guarantee. Like you're probably right. Like it'll probably end up being like AFC Championship or Super Bowl, but there was a thought like it could potentially be sooner than at the end, but a lot of things have to fall into place.
It'd be like John Cena coming out number 30 at the Royal Rumble after only 2 months of rehabbing a torn pec.
Get him riding on a horse in the whatever stadium they'll be in the Aperture in Pittsburgh or whatever you got to do. But all right, guys, we paid the bills. What a win! What a couple weeks. We're gonna have a fun last 3 weeks to race, maybe a division, but a playoff run looks assured, and if it's anything like this whole season's been, it's going to be a ridiculous. We're going to all have heart palpitations, and hopefully we'll win a lot of games. So let's see what happens. We'll be back on Tuesday. Shout out to our sponsor, Picasso Pizza at PicassoPizza.net. Get your pizza in Western New York and anywhere nationwide. For Mike Bundt, for Michael Parthy, this is Jake Micah. Have a great evening, folks. Go Bills.
Suck it, Portnoy.
Did he get that in?
I think, well, one of you's got to end this because I can't. So.
Oh, damn. Okay, I'll end it right now.